Tolu, you were in Scotland. You've been with Tom for a while. You are a creative writer. Looking at both countries, what kind of concerns do you have about the future of creative writers in Nigeria? What kind of things did you see in Scotland or other parts of Europe that you think we need to adopt here, particularly with regards to the thriving of the publishing industry, which seems to be a problem for writers here generally?
I mean, if you woke me up from sleep, to ask me this question, I would say clearly, one of the things you find in Scotland and in the United Kingdom is strong state support for the arts. In terms of, so you would have, quite a decent bit of funding, arts councils, sort of state-supported publishing, state-supported schemes. That because I think governments all over the world, all over the world, publishing is not the most commercial of ventures. I mean, if you wanted to make money, it wouldn't exactly be the best or the smartest way of making money. And a lot of good work, good writing has to be subsidized. Sometimes by other forms of maybe more popular work. And so I think that one of the things we complain about in Nigeria is that there's nothing actually like any sort of state-funded arts council. On the other hand, in fact, instead of that, what we have is governments, for example, imposing burdensome tariffs on publishing. On the importation of books. Things that just make sure that books are hard to get and expensive. And that's not the work of, that's not what governments should be doing. Governments should be making it easy for books to be cheap, widely available, So I think, one of the things that there's an impulse for the arts everywhere in the world. People want to express themselves. People want to publish. People want to perform. People want to put up plays and all that. And I think that, there's a lot of external support that these things need to exist and to survive. And that's one thing I've seen, in the West, in Scotland, in the UK as a whole, in the US, that kind of support, that nurturing support.
Quite often, people want to live in places that have that support for culture. They want to live, people who work hard, who live in a place, who live in a modern city, want to have a strong culture around them, to stimulate them and to help them to take their minds off.
To cope with the pressures of life, like in a city like Lagos, people want to, artists want inexpensive venues. I mean, you think of a place like Glasgow, and the beautiful venues that you find. I went for my time in Glasgow. I went for lunchtime theater. It was called a play, a pint, and a pie. And at lunchtime for 1 hour, between I think 12 and 1 or 1 and 2, people would gather in this small old church, converted, now into like a culture venue. And people would, you would sit down there for 1 hour to see a quick lunchtime play. And you get a pint, you get a pie. With your ticket, you get a pie and a pint of beer. And, it was just totally fascinating. And I saw that and I just started to think about Lagos and the possibilities of that kind of thing. Getting people in VI or Lagos Island, at lunchtime, just, a quick escape from work to do a 15-minute play.
That's been hugely successful everywhere because because you can have a huge turnaround of writers because lots of people can find they can write something that's an hour in length, and you can get terrific contrasts in these. You can get tragedy, you can get monologues, you can get humor, and there's lots of people who go to, it changes every week, and people who go to each one. Sometimes it's 2 plays in a week, and that's been taken up by other cities and by places abroad, just because it's a very simple model. Just lunchtime, you can fit it in. And you can also have your lunch
And
while
you have
you're
lunch.
while you're watching the play.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us on the Channels Book Club.
Thank you very
Pleasure
much.
having you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
How important are motivational and self-help books? Are they realistic? How influential are they in our lives? Well, West Africa's first certified speaking professional, author, and dean of the School of Eloquence, Ubong Essien, joined us to provide answers to some of these questions. Please join us after this break. Ubong, thank you for joining us on the Channels Book Club.
It's a pleasure,
It's
Kunle.
really nice to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Now, you probably pioneered the motivational industry in Nigeria. I mean, a lot of people will argue very much for that. And I remember you used to produce this Achievers Manual.
Absolutely, yes.
That took the country by storm years ago.
Those were the days, huh?
And so on. So, what have you been up to recently?
Well, interestingly, I have focused my work in the past 4 or 5 years on working more with corporate clients. And you may have known 2 years ago, I became the first certified speaking professional in the whole of West Africa because it was time to really bring a method to the madness, if I may put it that way. The world is so global now, and therefore whatever we do must measure up to what the global standards are. So on that note, I have been a bit more quiet, working with corporate clientele, and then of course, spending all that time, the past 6 to 8 years have been about me attaining my certification. So that's more or less been what I've been doing.